Never met. Never had a pleasure. Sorry? Oh yeah. That I did not know. Now ja. Schluck bitte. Warum haben wir denn 29 Stunden? Oh, trabalho você.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good, how are you all doing? It's been a long time.
Should be louder, no?
It doesn't go louder?
I don't know how. Do that. That's not gonna help. Sorry, just having classic Zoom issues.
No, you need to choose which speaker you choose.
Yeah. Oh.
Tell me when you want to start.
No.
No, this is microphone.
Yeah.
This is speaker.
How's that? Let's see, is that better? I think we can go.
Yeah.
We should be ready.
What's that?
It's not too loud. Great.
No, because the microphone there is maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're the internet office. Yes, but I think we're ready.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Good. So it's good to be back again, even though it's far away. It's been a while. It's good to see these familiar faces who we spent many years together growing, and it's an amazing place you have. Is that Rabbi Roberts? Is that Rabbi Roberts? So I don't think we've met before. I don't know if we met before, but Rishus of the Morad Astra, Rabbi Roberts, and also thanks to Rabbi Kiva Edelstein, who organized this. And I saw you put on the advert Hilchos Chinuch. So I just wanna, I'm gonna be a shtickle moide b'mixus. I'm gonna only do part halachas, but I want to speak about, chinuch and etc. And Adrabah, we can have a shtickle discussion. We can have a discussion on these inyanim. So Hilchos Chinuch, it's a mitzvah drabanan. Be'etzem, it's a mitzvah drabanan. Chinuch, what is chinuch be'etzem? There's an interesting machlokes in Hilchos Brochus. What is the age? What is the age of chinuch for brochus? If you look in halachas over there, once if a cotton is under a certain age, then b'chlal you don't answer main to his brocha. He's got no chiyuv of chinuch for it, pashtus, But when have you got a chiyuv to be mechanachim? when have you got an obligation to tell this child to start making brachas? So some Rishonim learn it's from the age where he knows Yodea Lemim Avorchim. He knows who's making the bracha to. There's an interesting Gemara in Brachas, in the 7th Perek. Abaya and Rabba were small children. Abaya, and they asked them, they were sitting there with one of the Ameroim, and they asked them, no, who do you make a bracha to? So he said, you make a bracha to Rachmana, to the Rebbeinu Shloim, Rachmana. It's interesting he uses that, Hashem has many different names. He uses that name. So the Gemara says, they asked them, the little children, Abai v'Rabba, tell me, Rachmana Eiche Yosef, where's the Rebbeinu Shloim? So one of them pointed to the roof, and one of them went outside and pointed to Shemayim. I'm not gonna go right in this Gemara at this point, because the Gemara continues, but that's the second Chalik. But the Gemara seems to be saying that the fact that they knew Lemim Avorchim, that was the Chinuch of brachas. When is one going to make a bracha? When is you going to make a child make a bracha? Is when he knows that you make a bracha to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's Shlav Aleph. That's the simple understanding in Chiyuv of Chinuch. The second shita is, which is that when he knows how to make the bracha properly, it's not a Rishonim. The Ritva says the Yidei Lemim Avorchim. One of these likuds for him they bring a chveis from who knows who. Yidei Lemim Avorchim. Now, if it's a machlokes or not, it's loch patli. That's not what's negea for me. I'm just bringing you this two stodim over here. When you are being mechanech a child in brachas, some hold Yidei, he knows. He makes the bracha to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And others hold, no, when he makes the bracha properly. We have to understand what's the machlokes, what's going on here, what's exactly the machlokes, what's the kudus ha-machlokes going on over here. So I want to share with you a maisa. A maisa, actually, there was the article from Rabbi Isaac Sher. Some of you might remember. We used to have maybe you still have, coming to Germany, to Berlin, some interesting characters. Please. We used to have sometimes a Yishalmi guy used to come. And nobody knew what exactly they were doing there. But there was actually always a sipur. And I'm not going to mention it, what the sipur is on every person. I'm sure there's always a maisa. We used to have once an article from Rabbi Isaac Sher, who used to come to Germany, to Berlin. And he told me a moirdike maisa, a beautiful maisa, and this I will understand what chinuch is, and this I will understand the machlokes rishonim over here. His zayda, if you know the yichus, there was the Alt of Slabodka, and there was Rabbi Isaac Sher. Rabbi Isaac Sher had a daughter. Her daughter, in the end, married Rosh Hashiva of Slabodka. Took over Slabodka to Bnei Brak. The Slabodka in Bnei Brak. There's also Chevron. All came from the same Shoirish, Mir. All came from the same dynasty with the Finkel family. Alt of Slabodka was a Finkel. So Rabbi Isaac Sher had a daughter. She was a genius. They say she was such a genius that after the war, when the Russians wanted her to be a spy, so on the moment, she said, Gesundheit. She knew if she says yes, she's in trouble. If she says no, she's also in trouble. So what did she do? On the spot, she said, I would love to be a spy to serve for the USSR. It's my passion. But what can I do? I speak in my sleep. On the spot. She was a genius of a woman. The Maisa goes like this. In those times in Nisoyan, the test was more about kfira. Before the war, the maskilim, the way how they hit us, was all through our scholar, was all through thinking, maskilim, thinking, making you think, and kfira, and different thoughts. You know, we know that Moses Mendelssohn is buried not far from where you are. I've seen it. The Haskalah movement it was all in Ashkofa, all in the Krumkeit in Ashkofa. You know, thinking in a different direction, in a different way. Before the war, that was the Yetzer Hara which they were fighting, and each one fought in their own way. Sroslanta, we know the stories. There was a big pull. There was also another Yetzer Hara which was called the communists. The communists many of them were Yidden who started it, and there were many Yidden who were being dragged in to that kfira, that way of thinking like the communists. The Meister goes like this. This young lady, she was once invited to a speech by Lenin. As we know, he was an orator, and many people, it's interesting, it was a different door then, it was a different generation. They had big speeches, and that's how they used to attract the oilam, that's how they used to attract people. And by attracting people, they managed to change them. That's how I went in those days. Lemaisa, the story was, she was brainwashed to go to a talk by Lenin. No, she comes there, and on the way, she sees a poster. And on the poster it said, or the communists will win the flies, or the flies will win the communists. This was the Maisa Shaya. What was it implying? That anyone who's not a communist, he's a fly, he's a garnished, he's a nothing. It's not about plukta. You know, you have a machloikis, you have a dispute, two people, you have Hillel and Shammai, you have a machloikis. You know, two people, there's someone to talk to. But when you have a machloikis between a grosser gavra rabba, a great person, and a little fly, there's no dispute over here. It was a zilzal. It was talking down to anyone who wasn't a communist. That's what was happening. She saw this on the sign, and her stomach turned, and she went back home. What pshat, she went back home? Why did she go back home? So she comes back home, her father asks, where you've been missing for hours. Where have you been? So she says the Maisa. She says, I went. And I saw this sign, and it said that anyone who's not a communist is like a fly, and therefore I decided to turn back home. So her father asked her, so why are you so, what made you turn back home? So they called him a fly. So she turns to her father and listen to this. And she says, in our home, in Rabbi Isaac Sher's home, there was a kpeda about speech. You speak nicely about people. You don't speak nivul peh, bad language. It was a big emphasis in our home. And that's how we grew up. We grew up that you speak nicely about people. You speak nice terms about people. The Gemara says that the Torah didn't write Behema Tmeah, it wrote Behema Inenu Torah. It didn't write it's not a good animal, it wrote an animal which is not good. Extra word, each letter in the Torah. You know, we learn out so many things from it. And here, the Torah added on another 5-6 words, the Gemara says, to teach us how we have to be careful with our language. And that was her impression from home. And you know something, and if you think back to all of your childhoods, there's a certain things which don't go. Certain things which don't go. Why? Because you grew up like that. You grew up in a certain way, that there's a certain boundary, certain things are not done. In our home, this daughter tells Rabbi Isaac Sher, father, we had to speak nicely about people. There's an emphasis about, speaking nicely, speaking with respect to people. When I saw this sign that calling anyone who's not a communist a fly, it was against everything about me. And I came back home. You think of it, it's a Maisa. We have to understand the fact that she was thinking of going shows where she was holding. But what brought her back was a chinuch in the home. And I want to bring out, again, this Maisa, you can bring out many points from this story, but I want to bring out in the Kuda over here in this story. The Chaznish writes the word chinuch. The word chinuch comes from a word, inauguration. When you have a new shul, you have a new binyan. That means you're getting it trained in. That's what chinuch is. When we speak about chinuch over here, what is chinuch? Chinuch is training the child. A lot of times people think that what is chinuch? When you see your child, got a runny nose, and he's mamish wiping it on his shirt, he's not being etiquette. To go and give him a shtickle musa about that. That's what people think chinuch is. The answer is chinuch is getting him trained and getting him ready that when he's older, he'll behave like a mensch. That's what chinuch is, training them in. And how do we do that? The way how we do that is by bringing in our home values of Torah. When children see that we ourselves are behaving in a certain way and we've got principles of Torah, that's what they take. We had COVID. So as I'm not home much. But since COVID, we were stuck at home. In Germany also, I think you had this. You're stuck at home, and suddenly all the shiurim on Zoom suddenly. Waking up the kids all hours of the night, the shiurim and Zachen. And it made an amazing impression on the kids. My father also learns Torah sometimes. Sometimes I say. There's a big debate. I'm not going into what the maskana is. What a child, I'll tell you an unbelievable Maisa, which also brings out this Nakuda. We'll come back to everything. There was a Yid who used to go to a Daf Yomi Misheh. By night. And you don't have this problem. I remember I always go back to those old days when we used to have these shurim by night, and the oilam was into it. There was a younger man, he used to come to a Shemagit from his work, and he used to, as they say, if you're a speaker, there are people who give you a chance, and there are people who don't even give you a chance, especially on your Friday night droshes. There are people, even before you get up, they're already schloffing, You have to give them a nudge not to snore, you know what I mean? Those type of people. So there was this younger man who used to come to the Daf Yomi Sheh, and he used to, straight away, as he came in, he went schloffing, he went to sleep. And it bothered the Maggid Sheh, it bothered the guy who was saying the Sheh. So he went over to him one day, he got up his courage, and he says to him, Reb Yid, you come to my Sheh every night, you don't even give me a chance. Maybe this daf is going to be mamish a daf of mamish of his oiris and pilpul and halacha and etc. And you're mamish going to have a geschmack in it. You don't even give me a chance. You just fall asleep straight away. He says, do me a tova, I have a morning share at 6 o'clock in the morning. Come at 6 o'clock in the morning. And your mamish, you'll be nana. Because I know you're Balkishan, you're a clever guy. You know how to think and learning, you enjoy learning. So let's do that. So the guy hears this. Next morning, the Magashir comes, 6 o'clock, he used to give 2 dafiyomis. And there, that Balabos is there, and he's sitting there, and he's being mefalpel, he's asking questions and back and forth, and it's geschmack. No, the Magashir was so happy. He achieved the amazing thing. He got a guy, he woke him up in Torah. First thing in the morning with Torah is always the best. And then, by night, 8 o'clock in the night, the Magashir comes. And who's sitting there? Who do you think's sitting there? That same Balabos. So no, and also, as he walks in the room, doesn't have a chance to get up, and he's slopping already. He's already slopping. So he came in the morning, he learned Geschmack, and he comes in the evening to the shit. He says, morning, you're so Geschmack. Why are you coming in the evening again? So this is what he tells him. He says, you think I come in the evening for you? You think I come for me? He says, you know why I come? I've had a long day in the office. It's been difficult with competitors and who knows the workers, how they're misbehaving and who knows what. I come home, Amish. Says, what I do, I tell my children, let's eat, because I've got a shir to go to. He says, I know that my chaverim are coming home, they're bringing out the newspaper, they've had a long day. This ain't good for them. But what I want to bring into my home is to my children to understand that even after a hard day of work, even as it's been so difficult at work, my first priority is Torah. I don't come for you, he says. I don't come for myself. I come to educate my children that Torah is the Ikar. When you bring into your home these principles, that is Chinuch. Chinuch is not pshat telling a child to eat nicely. Maybe you can. Chinuch is bringing into your home the principles of Torah, the principles of Avodah, the principles of a Yid, the right hashkafas. When we bring that, when children see that our home is based on that. Isaac Sher's daughter, the father never said not to go to the communists. The father just brought in his home a principles. You speak nice about people. You don't run down people. That made such an impact on the child that when the parents behave in a certain way, that saved her. And if we think of it, that brought Slabotki Yeshiva to Bnei Brak, and all the Talmidim are there, and the schus of that Maisa. That's what Chinuch is. Chinuch is not what you tell them, yes and no. Of course, I'm not speaking about you have to make boundaries. Children need security and boundaries. That's not my nakuda over here. Chinuch starts how we as parents behave. When we as parents behave, we bring in priorities of Torah into our home. We bring in priorities of Chesed. And we bring in priorities of Avodah into our home. When children see that, and it's done in a nice way, then that is Chinuch. The Moshe Feinstein, I'm going to come back to the Ritva. I know you're itching to understand how this is related to the Ritva, but we're going to get there. The Moshe Feinstein used to say a pshat in the Parsha of Bechira, towards the end of Parshas Nitzavim. It says the pasuk like this: Look, I've given you today 2 ways. Life and good, and moves, and death, and bad. No, the Torah continues, says, "B'charta b'chayim, l'man tichya ato v'zarecha." You should choose in life. So all the mafarshim, but Per Echad asked a very simple question. The Torah says, "I've given you two ways, life and death." And as we said before, every letter and every word in the Torah teaches us something. Why does the Torah have to continue to say, "V'charta b'chayim"? Why does the Torah have to continue to say, choose in life? It already says, in the Torah already says, I've given you life and death. Why does it say choose in life? You know, of course, Baba Pasha, you choose in life. There's many mahalchim in this question, but I want to share with you Rav Moshe. Rav Moshe came to America. And as we know, in America, there's one shul. If you've been to America on 13th Avenue, it's called the Shomer Shabbos Shul. What's pshat? Why is it called Shomer Shabbos Shul? Most shuls in America used to daven nates. Why? Because they knew they had to go to work on Shabbos. Again, we're not judging them. They had to go to work on Shabbos. Because if they didn't go to work on Shabbos on Friday afternoon, they came to their boss and told them that I'm going home tomorrow. They gave them the yellow slip they gave them, a termination slip. Don't come back on some Monday. So many Yidden, again, we're not judging them, many Yidden went to work on Shabbos. And that's why majority of shuls in America daven nates. They used to go to shul, and they used to. Actually, interesting, in South Africa was exactly the same. I'll tell you, in South Africa, there was a Pellet Kazakh, there was one, we'll get back to this mice. I know this mice has got nothing to do with Chinuch, but I'll just show you, it wasn't just in America. There was a Yid who went to Reborch Beh. And he asked Reborch Beh, he says, "Little panos is schwer, it's difficult. I want to move to South Africa." So Reborch Beh stroked his beard, and he told him, "You know what? If you learn Hilchos Shchita," he says, "Rosh Hashiva, ich bin nicht kein Shochet. I'm a young man. Ich weiß, I'm trying to make ala michyo vala kalkola. Ich bin nicht kein Shochet." So the Baruch Ber tells him, "Listen, you asked my Eitzah. I'm telling you, if you want to go, learn Hilchos Shchita and Betnika, do Ksav Kabbalah, and etc." So he listened to his Rosh Hashiva, and he decided he's learning Hilchos Shchita and etc. And then comes back after a year, he's shechting already, and he tells his Rebbe, "I've learned Hilchos Shchita." So he sends him. He says, "Now you can go." He came to South Africa, and he was in his family's business. Friday afternoon comes Friday afternoon. He tells his family that, "You know, I'm going home for Shabbos. I'm a Shomer Shabbos." They told him, "Don't come back on Monday." He didn't know what to do. No job. Came all the way, schlepped from Litter to South Africa to be with the family to make a bisl mehr panosa. On the first Friday, he's fired already. So Bashkoch al Yoina, there was a Rav called Rebbe Zaltzer here, who actually had his own shchita and was looking for a shoichet, and he took this young man as a shoichet. It wasn't just America who had this problem of working in, and interesting, you know, it killed Lamaisa, the Shmir Shabbos, it killed everything. So Rav Moshe said there were certain Yidden, there were certain Chevra who with serious nefesh used to say, "You know what? I'm not going to come tomorrow. He says there was two types of Yidden. There was the Yidden who got the termination yellow slip, and they used to sit the whole Shabbos and used to say this concept, "Shvet is ein Yid." Difficult to sein a Yid. And we can't blame them, of course. You know, Tiritus Apanos, it's not an easy thing. And they used to sit there the whole Shabbos, Shvet is ein Yid. So we have to remember that Mamish Mois Nefesh to keep Shabbos, and then Mesiris Nefesh, to the extent they said the Shabbos, they shred Sinayid. He says, Lemaisa, from these Chevra, who are Moisen Nefesh for Shabbos, their children, none of them stayed from. They didn't stay from. And none of them were Shomer Shabbos. But, he says there was a Yid who used to get these termination slips, and for his noise sukkah, on sukkahs, we put up pictures of Gedolei Yisrael, we put pictures of V'chveisish, of the bracha on the lulav, and different brachas. He used to put up all over his walls, all over those yellow slips. That was his pride. His pride was to his children that I am Shomer Shabbos and I'm Moisen Nefesh for Shabbos. This is my life. This is who I am. And this is how I want to be. And I'm proud to be like this. He says his children became Gedolei Rosh Yeshivas and became Talmidei Chachamim Uflogim. What's the difference between the two? They're both Moisen Nefesh. The answer is, when someone sits there and a ganze Shabbos after his unbelievable Mesiris Nefesh, and he goes and he says, "It's schwer zu sein a Yid, difficult to be a Jew." So the child looks at him and he says, "You know what? For you it's difficult. You can do it. Gesundheit. But I'm not going to prepare to do it. I'm not prepared to do it. And therefore, I'm not going to do it. And therefore, they weren't Shomer Shabbos." This other Yid who put up all over the sukkah these big termination slips, this is what he was proud of. His children stayed from. His children became Talmidei Chacham because they saw the dveikus to Torah. Says Reb Moshe, that's what he means. I'm giving you today the life and the good, and the death and the bad. Torah is Chaim, and the opposite is not. You have to choose in life. That means you have to have the realization that Torah is our life, that everything's about our life. In order that you should live, and you should live for you, and your children will also live on Derech HaTorah. When we bring into our home an atmosphere of Torah and an atmosphere of pride, you're proud to be a Ben Torah, you're proud to be someone who goes in Derech HaTorah, then your child turns to you and says, I want to also do that. But we can't expect as parents our children should also do it. For the Krecht, says Rav Moshe. It's interesting. The Chasam Sofer wrote to Tzavor. He wrote to Tzavor that, there's a big discussion in Halacha about if one can wear a sheitel. Not a lace top is a nuzach. But I'm speaking about the sheitels in the time of the Chasam Sofer. It was shtickle synthetic or who knows what. There's a big machlokes in that time if it's mutar or asr. Chasam Sofer held it's asr. It's marasayin. Not to wear sheitel. Of course, this is not our tradition. I'm more giving you as a moshel. He wrote to Tzavor that his einiklech should all go with tichalech. They shouldn't wear sheitels. He had 4 daughters, maybe more. One of them didn't listen. And she wore a sheitel. Her children were all Shomer Torah mitzvahs. The other ones who put on tichalech, the children nicht as a poshet. Again, I'm not saying not, but that's how I was. So he said, what's the difference? To someone explain what's the difference. The one who went with the sheitel, I'm doing kisirosh, I'm covering my hair, I'm doing it as a proud Jew. And I'm proud of it. So the children saw they went in the same derech. The other ones who went with tichalech, they didn't live it. Again, I'm speaking Bagoidel in general. The children says, you know, it's difficult for you. You couldn't do it. Gesundheit, you struggle. I should struggle. That's the side of chinuch. The chinuch is getting your child in a healthy space. How do you get that? It's by us as parents. Us as parents being proud of what we do. When we learn Torah, when we bring in principles of Torah into our home with a pride, and our child says, this is my life, this is who I want to be. And this is who we are. Chinuch. Now I come back to the Machlokes Rishonim. Chinuch is not what they're doing now, Dafka. Chinuch is what's going to train them for the future. I'll give you another Machlokes, and this will be Mekayim, the poster of Hilchos Chinuch. A cotton sheniskadel b'mei asfira. A child became a mitzvah in the middle of sphere. You know, there's a chinuch about it. What you doing? You got to count 49 complete days. A child becomes bar mitzvah in the day 31. At day 31, can he continue counting with a bracha? Why? Because maybe his counting as a minor, as a child, wasn't considered counting, and we need Tamivas, we need a full 49 days. This is the clair of the Minchas Chinuch. The Minchas Chinuch brings a raya from El Shabbos, from Kiddush, etc. One of the poskim, they say, it's not even him doing the mitzvah. You've taken an assumption that chinuch, when the child is not doing anything. It's a mitzvah on the father to train the child that when he gets bar mitzvah, he's going to be doing mitzvahs. So therefore, what he counted as a child was not considered counting. Again, I'm not saying that halacha, you got tomorrow the asra, I'm not saying that, I'm just bringing you the point over here of chinuch. If Yaakov Kamenetsky used to say that chinuch, if you see a child with a runny nose, he gave that moshel. You can tell him, wipe your nose. Of a machnish kan asik, don't make an asik. Because why? Because when you know when he's older, he's going to stop going with a runny nose. We as parents, our hardest thing in chinuch is to be royas hanoiled. You go to a child and you, instead of giving him a varmkeit, giving him a ganze mussel about his runny nose, he's going to grow out of that runny nose. He's going to grow out of it later anyway. What have you gained? You've damaged the relationship over a runny nose. This is not going to die. Chinuch is not for now. Chinuch is for the future. You know, the first thing in Mishli, it says, Mishlei. We call it Mishli, but it's really Mishlei. Mishlei Shloima ben David Melech B'Yerushalayim. It's Meshalim. It's all to understand. The first words are, in Pasuk Beis, Lodas Chochma. To know Chochma. What does that mean, Chochma? What's Chochma? So the Mishnah says in Avos, and if you look in the Gra, on this parish of Mishli, Eize Chochem Aroyes HaNoiled. What is a Chochem? Someone who sees the future. So many times we act on what we see now. And this is where Chinuch, this is the key to Chinuch, is to be Royas HaNoiled, to see the future. Chinuch is not what the child is doing now. Chinuch is what he's going to do in the future. When we bring in to this child a healthy environment, a good environment of him, and giving him good principles that even though now he's not doing it properly, but he's going to be doing it properly, that's good chinuch. Going back to the machlokes in Hilchos Brochos, when starts the mitzvah of chinuch for the brocha? Some say, even if he's not going to make the bracha properly, he's not going to make the bracha properly, there's still a mitzvah of chinuch. Others say, no, he's got to do the mitzvah properly. What's the kudus ha-machlokes over here? The machlokes is like this. Some say mitzvah chinuch is doing the mitzvah now. Doing a mitzvah now. Therefore, if he's not going to do it properly now, don't bother even. But the Ritva says, the minute you're Dayan of Orchin, even if you're not doing it now, you just know the side of it. You know the future of it. That's already enough to bechav your chinuch. Chinuch is perfection now. It's the future. That's the side of chinuch. That's the side of chinuch. That chinuch is looking at the future, being a royas hanoilet, and it's hard. It's not always easy. We see things in our children. We see different things. It's harder in chinuch to keep quiet than to say. Many times you have to just keep quiet and just think. By keeping quiet and not lashing out at the child, you'll gain more in the future. Maybe now you'll stop him, but you have to think of the future. That's the yesod of chinuch. That's the yesod of chinuch. And together, it's a difficult matzavim of chinuch. It's not easy. The more the generations, it's not an easy matzav of chinuch. Children are sensitive. It's a different generation than when we were growing up. There's a lot of sensitivity. When we were growing up, we just got a few clap and we had to go weiter. But it doesn't work like that anymore. It doesn't work like that anymore. Chinuch is giving the child a secure place, a place where he feels safe, a place where he believes in the chavivas and the chashivas for Torah, because that's all we have. I want to end off with a Maisa, also a Maisa in Berlin. I once spoke at Shalashudis in Berlin. You might remember this, but I don't know if you know the Sofer. There was a Reb Shom Shvadron went into an old age home. He went into an old age home, and he heard the old people saying numbers. One said 30, one said 35, one said 40. So he thought they were bidding for psicha. They do auctions. So he thought, you know what? Let me say 45. They're saying 30, I'll say 45. So Shalom shouts up, 45. So the old man gets angry with him. You say, what do you know? What do you know? What do you know, Bechlal? So he looks at him, I was just bidding for psicha. I thought, I want to help. I want to give money to the old age home. So they said, you don't understand. We were sitting here this morning and counting the cars. I said 30. This younger man said 35. This old man said 35. How do you know that was 45? You weren't even here, Bechlal. Hey, face you have a day to say here. So Shol Shvadron is being a Baal Musa. He says, now I have a pshat in the Mishnah. What's the Mishnah? The Mishnah says, Sheina shel Shachris, the sleep of the morning, the good chrop in the morning, V'yayin shel Tzarayim, afternoon, wine, the Sichas HaYelodim, and the speech of a child, Moitziyah v'sa'adam min ha'olam, take out a person from this world. Okay, so you can learn how the Mishnah you want. So the Pshat now have a Pshat. It's not going on your days, it's going on your years of your life. It's going on your years of your life. Sheina shel Shachris means your early years, where you had an opportunity to learn Torah, where you had the opportunity to dedicate yourself for avodah for Gemilas Chasodim, and you decided to go and shlof those years. You get to later on, midlife, it's Yayin Shel Tzarayim. Yayin is referring to desires, midlife crisis. There's two different types of people. You know better than me. I'll have to say, the types of people run to got a midlife crisis. They can't find happiness within. They go running and doing all types. He says what happens is this results in Sichas HaYelodim. You speak like a child. When you're in the old age home, then you speak like a child. He says, but I went to another place, another old age home, and I saw old Yidden sitting on the Gemara with these big magnifying glasses, hovering over Gemara. He says, it's not a difference at that age, it's different when we started earlier. So I said this once at the Shalashudis in Berlin. And there was another visitor from Antwerpen. who came over to me and says, you're making a big mistake. He says, you don't have to wait till you're 85 to see the effect of the Sheinish on Shachris, of wasting the time in the teenage years. He says, I'm a balabos, and he says, I'm moida. That when I was in yeshiva, I didn't utilize my time. When I was a bit older, I didn't utilize my time. He says, when I come home from a day of work, I have nothing. I have nothing to turn to. I see my chaverim sitting there with their Gemara. Kudi Hashem Yishorim Mesam Chelev. Kudi Hashem Yishorim Mesam Chelev. They get such a geschmack from Torah, and I've got nothing. He says, why? Because early years. But he's wrong, but I'm not going to go into that. Because it's never too late. It's never too late. But the Yisayid I'm bringing is that we have to realize that all we have is Torah. All we have is Torah. To dedicate yourself for Torah and to bring in our home Torah and the geschmack of Torah, the value of Torah, that is what counts. And that is Chinuch. And I want to tell you, coming back, your memories, I think it's 10.5 years since I left. And you have an unbelievable place. You have an unbelievable place. You have a Choshev Arov, Talmud Chochem Muflik. Even though we never met, heard a lot, Shmoy Hoylech Lefonov. You have Rabbeim, which are unbelievable utilizes to bring into your home Avas HaTorah, Avas Chesed, and Avoida, and you be Zoiche Take, that we should be mechanech our children in this difficult door on the Taras HaKodesh on the right way. Is there any questions or ha'oras? Good, shkoyach.
Useful, square. Yeah.
Come closer. Come closer. Can't hear.
Someone asked on this chat if there's a chiyuv chinuch noch bar mitzvah. You saw this question. Good. Good. Beseda. Okay, shkoyach.
There were 34.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
Very, very.